Hello everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Before we get started, I wanted to share a little story because for some of you, you've already seen some of these shows. For others, this is your first time. But I wanted to share a little story that will, explain that for all of us, this is our first time again. So there is a television show, a franchise called Star Trek, as I'm sure you are aware of the name at least. Perhaps you're aware of a few of the character names or ideas from the show. Captain Spock, live long and prosper, resistance is futile, that kind of stuff, right? So I didn't grow up with that show or anything. I got into it in more recent years, and I got into Star Trek The Next Generation, which is one of the series. Now, what I didn't know until recently is that the original series lasted only for 3 seasons, which, that amazed me, surprised me. The original series, which spawned all the other series, spawned the movies and everything else, and the original series that had this, that started that big cultural impact of the franchise, lasted only 3 seasons, under 80 episodes. And what's perhaps even more incredible is that series went from 1967 to 1969. It went off the air, and the fan base just kept growing and going to Star Trek conventions. There was an animated series, but it wasn't until 1987, almost 20 years after the original series started, that a new live-action series began with Star Trek The Next Generation. 20 years. That's wild. And that series lasted 7 seasons. And then in the 90s, you had 3 different Star Trek series that were all on the air for longer than that original series was. And you still have new series coming out today. So I wouldn't say this is I don't want to call this a comeback, but what I will say is that this is Chip Chat episode 1, and I intend to boldly go where no one has chipped before. So if you're ready to beam up with me or whatever, Okay. So today we have Boulder Canyon coconut oil, Mesquite Barbeque kettle chips. They are classic cut. They are gluten-free. And got a whole bunch of other logos on the back. They use green energy. I don't know what color most energy is. They have no cholesterol. Once again, gluten-free, kosher. Yeah, so let's dive into these. Boulder Canyon. I don't believe I've had this brand before. And actually, it's just real quick. That art, you've got you have these chips towering over those trees. The Boulder Canyon itself, the namesake of the brand, is all but, blotted out of the skyline by these chips. It's rather intimidating, possibly frightening, perhaps these Boulder Canyon chips are a sign of the end times. They could be. Yeah. Chip. Wow. Okay. I gotta think about this one for a moment. Man, I don't know if I'm into these chips. I mean, so I will say something here that I don't know if I've ever said about chip before, and that is that it needs some salt. It's almost like they forgot the salt. And I feel like the flavors are working together very well. I can definitely taste the coconut oil, which is surprising. And I don't know if I prefer it. It's different. I mean, yeah, it is ever so slightly coconut flavored in a coconut oil way, but I don't know if I probably would have noticed something if I hadn't seen coconut oil real big on there. But I'm not positive that I would have been able to pinpoint it to coconut oil. But it's noticeable, it's good. All the other flavors in there, the barbecue flavoring, the smokiness I feel like it's solid. But this chip is very, I mean, visually pleasing chip. It needs some salt. Because all the flavors are there, and they're like in harmony with one another. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing, but they're muffled, you know? It's like, you know, I'm not sure if this is the best analogy, but it's what comes to mind. This has happened to me as a kid, and it stuck with me. This one time in art class, and I mean, like, you know, well, no, maybe this was in high school, actually. I was gonna say this is like, we were making macaroni necklaces, but no, this was like in high school, I think. I like said a really good joke to some, you know, whatever, the kid next to me, and I just like said it to him, you know, under my breath, and then he like said it aloud to the whole class, and everyone laughed. I was like, oh, Cool, man. Thanks. That's fine. I didn't need everyone to laugh. But these chips are like that funny joke that you can't hear, and they need that salt to amplify that voice. That's what they need. And usually a bag of chips got plenty of salt, perhaps way too much salt, especially barbecue. I think a lot of the time is too much, too salty, too everything. These are not. So, I don't know, maybe these are the chip for you if you want something more subtle. Maybe the rest of your meal is somewhat salty and you don't want a real salty chip. But I feel like Boulder Canyon, coconut oil, Mesquite Barbeque, kettle chips, they're pretty good. They're almost there, but I can't. They're not, the flavors aren't breaking through to my taste buds. And that's a shame, because I can tell it's a good arrangement in there. Their little quote on the back of the little story says to find our path, finding my path. Well, Boulder Canyon, I am glad you are going on your path. My path will involve not these chips. So